So the 2 point which I'm suggesting you to keep in mind. Number one, as far as the government or as far as the rule by an authority is concerned, it existed, right? And as far as its decisions were concerned, its decisions, it did have its influence or impact on the lives of the people, right? But this is what we are trying to understand, that this would mean as policy, this would be taken as the policy. So whatever the government would do in terms of making its rule a success, in terms of sustaining its rule over the people, in terms of maintenance of the political organization that it controls, right? So that is what would become policy. So that is where, if you can correlate the discipline that I referred to, whatever the government chooses to do or not to do, this is what public policy would be, right? But at the same time, the authority of the day did place in certain structures through which it would rule or govern. So this is what becomes the administrative structure. And administration would mean the way these structures would function. This is what administration would be, right? So
Okay.
the one demarcation that you can possibly keep in mind, that the structures which the government or the authority of the day has put in place to give effect to its decisions, that's what we know as administrative structures, and its functions are functions of administration, right? But the decisions of the government are policies. Okay, so the decision may be to do something, or decision maybe even not to do something, even even that is even that is even that is that is policy, right? So in that light, we will try to understand the way the discipline, this discipline has evolved in India. Then we will also try to look at administrative structures of the union government and the state government, and constitutional legal aspects of administration, and of course the civil services of India, right? Civil services of India. Now, one thing I may add here, that these issues or these topics in themselves, they are very comprehensive, right? So we would not try to look at the whole administrative structure of the union government, and the way administration happens, right? But we will just try to look at the broad issues as far as the union government's administration is concerned. Again, we would not look at every constitutional aspect which may be pertaining to the administration, right? We will again try to look at those broad issues, the understanding of which would matter, in terms of understanding the functions of administration in India. So similar approach would be taken with respect to legal authorities and civil services as well. So we'll try to look at the evolution of civil services, for instance, right? Then we'll try to look at the way certain changes were made in terms of recruitment and training of the civil services personnel, and some of the recent developments. Say, for instance, if you look at the examination pattern, of civil services today, which is managed by the Union Public Service Commission, right? So that is where it is now completely different from what it existed in 1970s, then 1990s, and again 2011 onwards. So you have altogether a different structure, right? So these are some of the important things that we will look at. But along with that, it is also very much important to understand that in a democracy, how the government functions at the local level, that is important, and that is where we have included this topic, local self-government in India, for you, and that's where we'll try to understand, especially the 92 and 93, right? Those amendments. Then how the 3-tier or at places 4-tier 4-tier government that functions, what were the changes which were made, right? What schedules and what articles they were added, they were added in the constitution. So all these things we'll study as part of the local self-government in India. Then finally, Lokpal and Lok Ayukta, Act. That is the last topic wherein we will focus on the way over the period the government has devised some kind of machinery, through which the unwanted actions of the government, or the issues pertaining to corruption in public places that can be handled and tackled, right? And finally, we may end up by making an assessment of the whole course, right? So this is what is the outline of the course, right? And we have close to 2 minutes. I will reconnect it, but there would be a kind of couple of minutes gap. So please wait, and again we would reconnect, and I would like to hear your views as far as this particular course is concerned. And next class onwards, we will take topics one by one, and then we will try to look at them. If you look at the way timetable has been prepared for you for this semester, in which you would find that there are two classes which are supposed to we are supposed to happen in synchronous mode. And another two classes in non-synchronous mode, meaning that for those two classes, maybe I would give you some material or some PowerPoint, or maybe I'm also trying to record my uh, my uh, you know uh, my lectures, so that you can have access to that. Either I would upload that on the YouTube channel, or you may find a link of the same on the university website. And what I would suggest, I would advise you to go through that material, or listen to that, and again we can come back and discuss, right? So to the extent possible, the period for the non-synchronous mode should be effectively utilized, right, for you to study, say, the topics which has already been discussed, or the topics which we are going to discuss in the next class. Okay.